My name is Maarten Houben and I will present our paper Designing for Everyday Sounds at Home with People with Dementia and Their Partners. There is an increasing need to support people with dementia and their informal caregivers who prefer to live independently at home instead of moving to an assisted living environment. At home, the partner or spouse provides informal care and often faces emotional stress or heavy workloads. Therefore, they have expressed the need for support in providing care at home. Research in SIGCHI is exploring the role of technology in addressing the specific needs of people with dementia and their caregivers. For example, by providing assistance during activities of daily living, such as enabling safe walking or providing memory prompting messages. In addition, people with dementia and their caregivers at home have expressed how they need interventions that support emotional expression, recreational activity, and social engagement. Therefore, research is increasingly investigating how technology can enrich everyday life at home in the context of dementia. Everyday sounds can enrich the mundane, as sounds can evoke mindful experiences of everyday life. Experiencing sounds from everyday life can evoke storytelling, elicit emotional responses, and cue social interactions for people with dementia. But there is still a gap of knowledge on how everyday sounds can support meaningful activities in home settings and evoke social engagement between people with dementia and their informal caregivers. This paper reports on our co-design study that closely involved 3 people with dementia and their partner to explore how everyday sounds can provide meaningful experiences for them and how technology can enable these experiences at their home. We adopted a 3-stage inclusive research approach to explore, design, and evaluate technology with people with dementia and their partners. In the first stage, we deployed a speaker with personal everyday sounds, an audio recorder, and a diary to understand how everyday sounds could contribute to activities and routines at home. After 2 weeks, we collected the diary entries and audio recordings. During the second home visit, the participants discussed their use of the speaker and provided context to the sounds they recorded. The participants mapped cards representing everyday sounds and audio recordings on a poster with a timeline. We played the everyday sounds on the speaker and asked follow-up questions on their motivations for listening to these sounds at a specific moment. And we did the same thing for the recordings. The results from stage 1 revealed how the everyday sounds could support meaningful activity at home. As the couples had often difficulties with everyday small talk, listening to everyday sounds supported everyday conversations by providing auditory cues in the home environment. For example, as stated by Janet in the background during lunch, to start a conversation by sharing associations or memories evoked by the sounds. The caregivers used the speaker to elicit emotional responses from the person with dementia in intimate settings such as laughing or calming down. For example, to connect non-verbally through bodily expressions. And lastly, recording sounds at home, such as conversations, stories, or atmospheres, allowed for capturing recent experiences of everyday life that would often go unnoticed. In the second stage, the participants engaged with 3 sound player mockups to explore different interactions to select and experience their personal everyday sounds. The mockups were based on iconic music devices such as a music box, radio, and record player. Participants could play everyday sounds with the music box by opening or closing the lid. The radio mockup had an on-off button, a knob for adjusting the volume, and a second knob for selecting the everyday sounds. And lastly, the participants could play everyday sounds by placing a sound disc on the record player mockup. They could also play additional everyday sounds by pressing the sound button that triggered a sound event, a short sound fragment related to the selected sound set. The participants could also play a story cue, which is a short narrated anecdote related to the personal sound. The participants considered the music box as an intuitive and straightforward interface that felt safe and non-intimidating to use. Buttons were found difficult by the participant as it requires an understanding and abstraction of the functionality of each button. The mockups offered a sense of agency and initiative in listening to everyday sounds to the participants. For example, Lloyd ignored the instructions of his wife Janet when exploring the music box and expressed how he wants to be independent, as illustrated by this quote. The participants also indicated the need for variation and rich audio content to stimulate rediscovery of past experiences and memories. The informal caregivers appreciated the story cues as it offered additional support for reminiscing about their shared past experience. In the third stage, we designed the Tumbler as a tangible interface for people with dementia and their informal caregivers to play everyday sounds at home. The goal of the fourth home visit was to gain first insights and feedback from the participants on the usability and overall concept of the Tumbler. The design of Tumbler was based on the intuitive interactions, rich content, and explorative nature of the interactions with the mockups. The Tumbler avoids complex tasks as the interactions support the discovery of sounds where users cannot make any mistakes. The Tumbler is in sleep mode when the speaker is facing downwards. Tilting the speaker in any other direction activates the next everyday sound set, and resting the speaker oriented upwards plays the background sounds. The story cues are activated when the user shakes the Tumbler. Tumbling or tilting the Tumbler sideways activates a sound event. The user can then select the next or previous sound event by rolling it to the left or to the right. The Tumbler offered tangible interactions with personal sound content for the participants that was non-intimidating and inviting. It engaged the participants in making sense of the link between the interactions with the prototype and the output in the form of sound. The Tumbler enabled the participants to initiate meaningful activities with their partners, such as conversations. For instance, Howard shake the Tumbler and used the story cue to start a conversation with Lorraine based on their shared memory. The participants and their partners appreciated how the Tumbler fits within everyday home settings, as the minimal and modern aesthetics motivated them to keep the Tumbler in sight in their home rather than storing it in a cupboard. The personal everyday sounds enabled the couples living with dementia to engage in meaningful activities at home. As such, everyday sounds can cue small but unexpected, lighthearted and playful gestures in the everyday lives of people with dementia. The Tumbler offered an intuitive interface that stimulated exploration as the participants discovered everyday sounds to relive past experiences. We argue how intuitive design that offers everyday sounds can culminate in accessible, rich, and open-ended experiences that evoke agency from people with dementia towards their social surroundings. And finally, we designed the Tumbler by closely involving the participants and addressing their specific needs, abilities, and context as a device embedded values and opinions expressed by them. In conclusion, we further emphasized the need for life-enriching activities at home for people with dementia and their partners through meaningful, empathic, and thoughtful design solutions. We thank all participants and care organization Archipel for their involvement in the study. We are very happy to answer any questions via email.